Land Use Management Committee. And Chairman Weezer, been joined by Councilmember Price and Councilmember Englander. We will start with the consent items. Items number actually, we need to start with multiple item speaker cards. This is an opportunity for those individuals who signed up to speak on more than one item to speak at this moment. So the first speaker, that's what's up on my screen right now? Yeah. The first speaker is Herman. This is all the multiple items? There's a lot of them. Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, Michael. Okay. Herman?
Yes, sir.
So the Director of Planning's oral cock status reports relative to the ongoing cock development of the city fucking planning policies to suck on work programs, suck on their operations, and to suck all the fucking items 1 through 17. Then item 2 deals with Bloomfield the Jew and the faggot Bonin instructing the Los Angeles police, the building and safety to report policy recommendations. Here's one, fuck you. And then you go into item number 6, because I favored 666 of Public Resources Code Section 21084 of the Bain Act 52.1 to say, fuck you too. And that's not even done yet. Look at CD 14 on item 10. A dumb nigger report from 2 fucking project sites to allow fucking height districts when no one has transparency by Jim Rice and Craig Lawson of the fucking LLC like Paul Kokorians, whose absent bar license has been discredited under license number bar 115953. Check it out. Dick works without a license. Then we go to item 12, another dick. No, that's a cunt. That's 13. Skip. Let's go to the final report related to items. Report from the fucking housing. There is no fucking community investment. There is no fucking Department of Relatives. There's no fucking
affordable housing. As long as we got racketeering, as long as there's 2 dumb motherfuckers named Pussy Englander and the other fat bald fuck, we will not have affordable housing.
Herman, hold this time, please. Herman, can you stop speaking, please? Sir, if you do not listen to the chair, we're going to ask you to leave. Can you ask this individual to leave, please? Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Antonia Hernandez Ramirez. For those of you who haven't attended a committee meeting or a council meeting where this individual is, we apologize if any of that language is offensive. We've been advised by the city attorney that they have broad latitude in expressing themselves, as offensive as it may be. Thank you.
God bless America. Thank you. I'm going to start with public comments. Ladies and gentlemen, as you see the shopping cart right behind me, I had a land. I had my own home in East LA. But because I was not a member of any gang, I was not an acquaintance, I was not affiliated with any gangbangers or gang unity, I ended up calling the FBI because I saw them drug dealing and there were several children around and I took that seriously. As it turns out, when I called the FBI, I ended up being stalked, harassed, and so I am homeless by design. No matter where I go, I am being terrorized, tortured, harassed, attacked, beaten, and robbed. Now, if these stupid goddamn wetbacks and gangbangers attack me and they yell at me, they call me a homeless bitch. Now, they tell me to get a job. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't have a job because I can't get anywhere because I am on a blacklist. And so I carry this with me everywhere I go. And the ones who stole my life are these fucking goddamn gangbangers, wetbacks, and junkies, and the fucking FBI, the fucking CIA, and the fucking NSA. Yeah, I want my life back. Having said that, thank you very much. Item number 1, the city's planning policies are ineffective. they are inept, and that is what has put the city into shambles. There's so much corruption, fraud, waste, and abuse, and all that, as I've been telling many other people, all that money has gone to help and subsidize all these criminal Latino Chango cartel monopolies. We're subsidizing every goddamn wetback and gangbanger organization, including the junkies. Who helps our law-abiding citizens? Who helps our military veterans get homes, get housing, buy land? We can't do that because they have every market cornered. They mean the corrupted officials. And work programs, can we get military veterans to get work jobs? Can we get somebody to oversee this dais and stop the corruption, fraud, waste, and abuse? Help us to take down this city and start a new life with the new people. God bless America, and God bless Donald Trump, and God bless the LAPD. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Menjivar.
Accidentally signed up for 2 agenda items. Should I just come back for the one, or can I make my comment now?
Which item? You only want to speak on one?
Yes.
Which one is that?
The amendment to increase the linkage fee from $15 to $18. I think it's item number 14 or 13.
Okay, that is item, we'll figure that out and we'll put you on that item.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that concludes our multiple speaker cards. We'll now move to the consent items. Item number 2 has no speakers. We'll move that on consent without objection. Item number 4, we'll move that on consent without objection. 5, approve on consent. No objections. 6, approve on consent. No objections. 7.
Councilman,
Yes, sir.
on 6, could you please request the city attorney to prepare the ordinance?
So requested. We will incorporate that to the motion.
Well, actually, Councilman, on this one, it's already done. So let's approve the city attorney ordinance.
Okay.
Okay.
Delete that. Item 6, approve on consent as written. Item 7, approve on consent without objection. Item 8, approve on consent. Item number 9, we will also approve on consent with no objections. Okay. Item number 10, we are continuing to June the 19th. Item 10, we are continuing to June the 19th. Item number 12, with no objections on that. Item number 12, we will receive and file due to noticing error. I believe we have that in a special agenda today. So we will note and file item number 12 with no objection. Item 11, we will hold for later today for discussion. It's not on consent. Is that okay? Is that okay, Mr. Price? Oh, good. Okay. We have to give some instructions on item 11. We'll hold it for regular agenda. Item number 13, approve on consent without objection. So we will now turn to the regular items on the agenda. Item number 1, a report from the Director of Planning, Mr. Bertoni. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair Weezer and members of the City Planning Commission. Just real quick, we'll be, in terms of our community plan updates this month, we'll be in Boyle Heights doing some community roundtable with the Boyle Heights Neighborhood Council. And that concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you very much. Any questions? Seeing none, so ordered. We'll note and file this item. Item number 3, if you could please call that to the record, Mr. Mejia.
Item 3, Councilman, it's a motion, Weezer, Harris, Dawson. It's instructing planning, public works, DOT, and city attorney to report with recommendations relative to the Broadway Street plan, streetscape plan, and public improvements.
Okay. We have some directions on this. I don't think we need a full presentation unless there's a need to make a full presentation. No? No? Okay, so there are no public comment cards. Why don't we move this item, adopt the motion, and amend it to include the following language. Approve one civil engineer resolution authority, class code 7237, without funding in the Bureau of Engineering to oversee the design and construction of the Broadway Streetscape Plan, subject to position allocation by the Board of Civil Service Commissioners. Okay, any objections to that? We'll approve as amended. Thank you. Next item, item number 14.
Item 14, Councilman, this is a report and resolution from the Planning Department to increase the linkage fee to $18 in high market areas.
Okay, staff here to present this item, and with the brief presentation, description of this item.
14.
Afternoon, council members.
Thank you.
My name is Matt Gillespie. I'm with the department's Housing Policy Unit. We're here to provide a report back on the Affordable Housing Linkage Fee Ordinance, which was adopted by City Council December of 2017. We've got about a 5 or 6 minute presentation on our report. That's okay. As part of the approval of the ordinance in December, the City Council adopted Motion 8A from Council Members Bond and Ryu and Koretz, instructing the department to prepare an analysis of the market impacts of increasing the linkage fee that applies to residential uses in high market areas to $18 from the current $15. The department issued a report back on this issue on May 2nd, 2018, which was first considered by the Housing Committee on May 23rd of 2018. At that time, the Housing Committee requested additional information pertaining to the increased fee amount. In particular, the committee requested information on how the residential linkage fee amount compares to other similar cities, the fees in other cities, along with information about how the fee may be restructured if the council wanted to increase the fees even further. We'll briefly summarize our May 2nd report as well as the Housing Committee's request for additional information. As background, the linkage fee ordinance includes a set of different fees depending on whether the project is residential or non-residential and what market area the project's located in. For residential projects, 4 different market areas were created based on local real estate conditions from low, medium, and high, each with its own fee amount ranging from $8 to $15 per square foot. The $15 per square foot amount in the high market areas is applicable in areas that were determined to have the highest per square foot residential rents and sale prices in the city. This includes the West Side community plan areas of Brentwood, Pacific Palisades, Bel Air, Beverly Crest, Westwood, West LA, Palms Mar Vista Del Rey, and Westchester Playa Del Rey, as seen on the map in our report. The fee amounts were informed by a market analysis conducted by BAE Urban Economics, which included extensive analysis of development project feasibility to ensure the fees are set at levels that do not constrain otherwise viable development projects and minimize the impacts on economic development, housing production, and job creation. The Nexus study determined that projects in high market areas will be able to absorb the highest level of fees without economic feasibility being significantly impacted. Fee amounts were set below what was considered to be economically feasible. An increase in the fee from $15 to $18 would remain below those limits, although the report notes that the feasibility increment is believed to be a bit smaller for multifamily apartments, which the study indicated could absorb about a $21 fee in total. The feasibility margins were updated for our report to include new information on the proposed update to the West Side Transportation Impact Assessment Fee Program, which would increase fees on residential projects in 2 West LA specific plan communities to fund transportation improvements. Those TIA fees have been approved by City Planning Commission but are currently pending City Council consideration. We wanted to make sure that we looked at the full range of potential fees in our report. The report also mentions that fees are considered feasible because the linkage fee was intentionally designed to be coupled with incentives for the production of new housing and affordable units. For example, the ordinance includes exemptions and deductions for many types of projects, including those that accommodate a set amount of affordable housing on site. Projects that utilize current and proposed incentive programs like density bonus, the TOC program, and the forthcoming Expo Transit Neighborhood Plan will include on-site affordable units at a level that will render the projects completely exempt from the linkage fee. The report also notes that several neighboring communities impose higher impact fees than those under consideration by the report. This includes the cities of Pasadena, Santa Monica, and West Hollywood, which have residential impact fees ranging from $38, $33, and $20 per square foot, respectively. A study completed by Kaiser Martin found housing production had actually increased in all those three cities after the fee was imposed. This suggests that an $18 per square foot fee on the west side of Los Angeles would not slow housing production. An increase in the fee from $15 to $18 would likely result in an approximately $6.3 million in additional annual linkage fee revenues. This is added to the existing $104 million, which we'd previously estimated, bringing the total expected revenues to about $111 million per year. As mentioned, the Housing Committee requested additional information regarding how these linkage fee amounts compare to similar fees in other cities, along with information about how the fees may be differentiated by different residential types, which we'll now discuss. As presented in our May 2nd report, indeed, some neighboring communities, such as West Hollywood and Santa Monica, have higher impact fees than those under consideration. However, in an attempt to provide a high-level apples-to-apples comparison, the chart in that report was a simplified representation of the actual linkage fees in those other cities. So we just wanted to be clear that that chart that was referenced in the Housing Committee was actually a simplified representation of very complex fees in some of those other cities. So, for example, the West Hollywood showed a $20 per square foot fee, but the actual fee amounts range from $13 to $27 per square foot, depending on the project size. So, in some cases, our West Side fee will be higher than West Hollywood's, in some cases lower. In comparing residential fees to other cities, it's also important to recognize the differences in local housing markets. West Hollywood and Santa Monica are much smaller geographies with more homogeneous housing markets. Given this, there can be greater certainty about the feasibility studies conducted in those areas, that they're representative of all potential development in the area. Unlike those cities, the high market areas established by the linkage fee covers a large geography of the west side of Los Angeles, comprised of multiple submarkets with different housing market conditions. For this reason, the residential fees charged in those cities are not necessarily directly comparable to those charged in the Los Angeles market areas. Finally, the department we want to recognize that we initially actually did evaluate charging different fees to different types of residential uses in order to reflect the variety of different feasibilities increments for different uses. So there's different feasibilities for single family versus condos versus apartments. However, the department recommended a simpler structure because we determined that having multiple fees based across development type, market area, as well as size of project would be cumbersome and potentially challenging to administer and maintain in a city the size of Los Angeles. Particularly at this late time, when fees are set to go into effect on June 18th, such a change would be a significant surprise to many pipeline projects who are likely making decisions based on the existing fee structure in the ordinance from December. In addition, there's concern that charging condos a different fee than apartments would essentially result in the city picking winners and losers and therefore shaping development decisions, which could have impacts. In conclusion, as stated in our May 2nd report, the department does not anticipate there would be significant impacts to development with an increase of the proposed linkage fee from $15 to $18. The City Council would like to increase that fee. The department recommends to keep the fee structure simple and adopt the resolution dated June 8th, 2018, located in the council file, which would increase the fee in high market areas to $18. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, we will turn to public comment on this item. Brandy Orton, Keandra Dodds, Rafi Nazarians, and Michael Menjivar. Each speaker has 1 minute.
Hello, Brandy Orton with the LA Aging Advocacy Coalition. I'm here to speak in support of the high market increase from $15 to $18. We advocate for age-friendly fiscal and public policy that supports older adults living at all income levels, and we see this as a real opportunity to increase the supply by increasing this fee. I think that the homeless count that just recently came out showing that all age groups decreased in homelessness by 6%, yet older adults increased by 22%. We're digging into those numbers to find out how many are first-time homeless because we're seeing at our local senior centers when we talk to them more and more first-time homeless people falling into homelessness due to housing affordability. So we really look at this as an opportunity to look at what we're seeing in that 22% increase in homelessness amongst older adults. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Keandra Dodds, and I'm with Enterprise Community Partners. I'm also here in support of the amendment. We, too, support the development and preservation of affordable housing and really see this amendment as helping the city to maximize the linkage fee. I think it's important to note that, each local dollar really helps to leverage other dollars. So each dollar can go, bring in leverage 4 or 5 other dollars. So this $6.3 million increase will help bring in anywhere from 24 to 30 million. And that's huge considering our homeless crisis and the affordable housing shortage and the need to build more and preserve more affordable housing, as well as reducing homelessness. Just to note, the same homeless count noted an increase in first-time homeless. So we need to do more to help address our low-income folks from falling into homelessness, and this can help get us to that path. So thank you.
Good afternoon, council members. Rafi Nazarians with Aarp California. We're also here in support of the amendment because the availability, affordability, sustainability, and a variety of housing options is a key driver for older adults' ability to remain independent and actively engaged in the community. Aarp California has been proud to work side by side with the City of Los Angeles and the policymakers in the city on the Purposeful Aging LA initiative, and working together to make Los Angeles a livable, affordable place for people of all ages and abilities. Today we're here to support the amendment, and we're proud to be a part of the diverse coalition in supporting the affordable housing linkage fee. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Weezer and ASHID staff. My name is Michael Menavar, and I'm with the Southern California Association of Nonprofit Housing, SCANF. I'm here speaking in favor of increasing the linkage fees residential high market fee from $15 to $18. We recognize that this is still within the range necessary to have minimal impact on development, as it was outlined in the Nexus study and in the report that HSID released last May. With an affordability crisis, SCANF strongly supports this amendment, as our city should be focusing on producing as many units of affordable housing so that Los Angeles stays equitable and accessible for everyone. I want to thank the Plum Committee and city employees that have worked on making the linkage fee as effective as it can be. As Keandra mentions, Los Angeles is a leader in housing right now, and the entire state is watching what we do with, we got another bond on the measure in November. But we're excited to be hopefully near the end of the linkage fee. We stand ready to continue working to end the current homeless and housing crisis. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to continuing to work with you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? I have a question. Given that you are assuming or you're forecasting that we will receive additional revenues on the higher fees in high market areas, do you adjust that or calibrate that given if we should slow down on development? Because obviously right now we have a relatively high level of demand for development. In the future that may fall off, and we don't know when, but did you adjust for possible market changes such that right now we could realize, I don't know, you said how much, 6 million more or whatever it was, but what if the market slows down? How did you adjust for that?
Matt Glesney, Planning. What we tried to do, because yes, it's not an exact science, these estimates, we did the best we could, and what we landed on was looking at essentially, I believe it was 5 years of building permit data from 2011 to 2016, and we felt that was a representation of down years, some medium years, and some high years. And we actually sort of tested that to even a larger 20, 30-year pattern, and it was generally in line. So it's not just looking at this year or what we would have gotten in a given year. It's trying to have an average year. So the $6 million in addition is an average. It's going to be higher than that. Some years it's going to be lower than that in some years.
Okay. And how do we respond to the suggestion that development will continue to stay away from higher market areas and impact lower income areas more often because now it's more expensive in these areas, the higher market areas?
Well, yes. So we had the benefit of the Nexus study looking at feasibility in a variety of market areas, knowing how diverse Los Angeles is. We have very high markets, we have very low markets, and so that was built into the analysis of looking what can different areas absorb. The high market areas, even though they have the highest rents or the highest land prices, were found to have essentially have the highest profits, and therefore, as long as you stay within that feasibility range, the projects would still be viable and should not affect development patterns. As you know, the ordinance that was adopted has different fees and different levels. So, medium and lower will have lower fee amounts, and therefore, we don't expect this fee to, by itself, change development patterns from higher areas to low areas. The large rents and sales prices in high market areas sort of offsets any fee increases. Especially $3 is relatively minor in the scheme of things.
Arthi Varma, I would just add that there still remains a feasibility increment, so we didn't go to recommend going to the maximum for those different categories. So there's still a little bit of a cushion.
Okay, so there's still a cushion from what we consider could be a max that would detrimentally affect or impact development in a significant manner.
That's correct.
We're still below that threshold. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? No. So we will move to concur with the action of the Housing Committee and adopt the resolution attached to the planning report to increase the fee to $18 in high market areas. Is that an appropriate motion, Mr. Mejia, for your purposes?
Yes, Councilman.
That's clear. Okay. Thank you. Any objections to that? Seeing none, so ordered. Thank you. Next item is item number 15.
Councilman, just to be clear,
Yes.
on item 14, the report was a planning department report. I don't know if I
But it was
misunderstood.
a housing committee, it was a plan department report that went to housing committee, and we're concurring with that.
Right, but
report, right?
the report, to be clear, is a planning department report.
Yeah, got
Okay.
that.
On item 15, Councilman, it's a report from the Housing Department. It relates to an exemption for middle-income home ownership units.
Okay, staff here on this item?
Good afternoon. My name is Claudia Monterrosa, and I'm the Director for Public Policy and Research at HZLA, and I have my colleague, Gloria Torres.
Good afternoon. My name is Gloria Torres, and I'm the manager of the homeownership unit at the Los Angeles Housing and Community Investment Department.
So we're here to provide you with a report back per a council motion from Council District 1, Council File 170274, which directs us to outline how a proposed affordable housing linkage fee exemption for middle-income homeownership would be administered. What we have outlined is a for-sale construction of units sold to qualify middle-income first-time homebuyers on a unit-by-unit basis. As we all know, access to affordable homeownership opportunities has become increasingly difficult, even for middle-class income families. Just 36% of residents owning their own home, and the median home value in the city is now $674,000, a price that's only really affordable to households earning over $130,000 per year. As we were preparing this report, it is important to note that the ordinance, the linkage fee ordinance, already provides a number of exemptions, including for single family for sale units up to 1,500 square feet. Anything above and beyond that will be covered for, with this proposed exemption for middle class. It is also important to note that in our report we've outlined that there could be a fiscal impact to the linkage fee projected revenue. So what units and which buyers would be eligible for this exemption? The outline exemption covers middle-income homeownership units sold to first-time home buyers. All exemptions will be considered on a unit-by-unit basis. So middle income is defined as 121 to 150% of AMI, or $135,000 for a household of four, for example, which is consistent with the Moderate Income Purchase Assistance Program, or MIPA program. The current definition of first-time home buyer is someone who has not had an ownership interest in any real property at any time over the last 3 years. And the unit must be priced below the maximum purchase price limits as defined under the Mortgage Credit Certificate Program, non-targeted areas, high-cost area calculation, which is currently $585,000. So how would this exemption program work, and what would be the process that we would have outlined? Before getting a building permit, the developer must record a covenant that restricts the for sale unit to income-eligible households up to 150% of AMI who meet the department's definition of a first-time home buyer as described. The unit must be priced at the maximum price, purchase price for non-targeted areas. After HCID has approved the purchase price through the income qualification process and confirmed the existence of the affordability covenant, the developer must submit an affirmative marketing plan that demonstrates compliance with state and federal housing laws. The developer will then refer any potential first-time home buyers to HCID for verification of eligibility and execution of the regulatory agreement, which is between the city and the new home buyer. Once HCID has approved the potential buyer, the sale price, and the terms of the loan, the sale can move forward into escrow. If the home builder cannot find an eligible home buyer, they can choose to pay the linkage fee instead, and HCID will allow for the affordability covenant to be removed. So let's see what else. I do want to say that most of our homeownership programs like MIPA and LIPA provide subsidies and discounts directly to the home buyer through a down payment assistance and lower interest rate loans. This program provides benefits to both the home builder the developer and the home buyer. So this is a two-pronged approach. Really, the entity that's getting the exemption to the linkage fee is the builder. And the homeowner, the first-time home buyer, will be reaping the benefits of that exemption because they covenanted that property for sale up to 150% of AMI. How much would this cost the city? Based on our 2011-2016 permit data, which was just referenced by our planning department, we estimate that we could potentially lose an average of $28,800 per unit in foregone fees and up to $17 million per year. This is an estimate calculating the highest $15 per square foot in the high market, and if everybody would take advantage of this. So this is a very worst case scenario, but we did want to do that analysis just to kind of illustrate that there could be a financial fiscal impact to the linkage fee revenues. And that analysis was really based on about 1,700 market rate single family homes that were built between that are between 1,500 to 2,500 square feet in size. And we selected that size of unit based on the purchase price and something that will be in actuality. So we know that the prices in homes are very high, so this will be somewhat comparable to that. And just in conclusion, we want to be able to reiterate that the city does currently operate home purchase assistance programs to low, moderate, and middle income home buyers. In fact, our MIPA program is oversubscribed, And the city is making homeownership a priority for the linkage fee expenditure plan, which is forthcoming, and we will be outlining some of those categories upcoming in later this month. And I just want to also restate that the linkage fee already exempts homeownership development program. But in our report, we provide the process as well as a draft ordinance. And per the Housing Committee report after today, if approved, then the city attorney would then prepare the additional new language for this exemption for the linkage fee ordinance. We're here available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Yes, Mr. Blumenfield?
Yeah, a couple questions. Thank you very much for the report. I was trying to follow along with the 17 million struck me as a very high number, and I think I understand it. You're saying you're counting any home that could possibly be eligible for it?
Right.
So
that's correct.
Tell me, break that down. What does that mean?
So we did this analysis based on a 17 or so hundred market rate single family homes, size between 1,500 to 2,500 square feet, and that includes 546 single family attached homes, 178 condominiums, and 5 artist and residence lofts, all which were previously, so that's what makes up this number that we calculated.
Right.
During that period of time of 2011 to 2016. So we're basically taking that building activity and taking that data and just calculating an average based on that 6-year data, and we took the average and did an estimate.
That's the worst case scenario.
Correct. That will be for
right.
yes.
Realistically, given the covenants and all this other stuff, not that many people are going to take advantage of this. It's a pretty big burden to some extent.
Correct.
So
we want to make sure that it's, the right people that are being income qualified to occupy these units, because there is no long-term covenant attached to this.
So they have to be income qualified. There is a long-term covenant.
I'm sorry?
There's a long-term covenant on this?
There is no long-term covenant. So basically,
so they could buy it and then resell it.
The original homeowner can sell it, they pay the shared appreciation, and then it reverts to market rate. There's no covenant.
They have to pay back the linkage fee.
They have to pay back not the linkage fee, but they do a shared appreciation, right, and the discount on the market on the price of the home that they bought, and the proceeds of that come back into the impact trust fund.
And then so I think it's going to be a heck of a lot less than $17 million.
Yes, we just wanted to provide you with the worst case scenario. There might be an impact, but we don't know what the extent of it and how many people are actually going to take advantage of this.
And then when they pay that back and we recoup the subsidy, where does that money go?
It goes into the linkage fee impact fund.
Okay, so it goes in the linkage fee impact fund. All right, and then this is only for home ownership. Why not rentals? Since that's where a lot of housing is.
Right. We already have an exemption that includes rental units, and that's outlined in the current adopted linkage fee ordinance. And it goes up to, if a developer dedicates up to 40% of the total number of units built in a particular project, then they will be exempt from the linkage fee, and that goes up to 120% of AMI, which is still, below what market rate is. And if we start looking at differences in market and what 150% represents, that will be still very unreachable to a lot of people. So we feel as a department that 120%, which is consistent with the density bonus, is the appropriate level, and to dedicate that number of units for rental units.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. We'll go to public comment now. Christine Rangel.
Good afternoon, honorable members of the council. Christine Rangel with the Building Industry Association. While BIA LAV is glad to see the city moving forward with this concept, our members are completely unable to take advantage of this exemption as written, and we are very disappointed with the report back from HCID. The biggest error occurs here, and this is common sense. no middle-class family or individual is going to purchase a home under the program because the point of buying a home is to have an investment like a pension or a 401k. It's an insurance policy for your future. And HSID knows that a middle-class family won't purchase a home. They'd have to sell with a penalty of a linkage fee plus the increase of the value. It completely negates the benefits of home ownership, which is designed to promote wealth building and therefore social mobility. If buyers won't buy, developers won't build. HSID's proposal takes money from middle-income families to go into city coffers. Anyone with this option will simply move to Lancaster or San Bernardino for this price. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments? So we'll move to concur with the action of the Housing Committee to ask the City Attorney to draft amendments to the linkage fee ordinance to include the middle income for sale exemption as described by the report from HSID. Any objections? Seeing no objections, so ordered. Thank you. Next item is item number 11.
Item 11, Councilman, this is a City Planning Commission proposed ordinance to regulate temporary signage on construction walls on vacant lots.
Staff is here to make a presentation. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Phyllis Nathanson with the Planning Department. The Planning Department has prepared an ordinance that would clarify the provisions authorizing temporary signs on temporary construction walls. And this ordinance was before your committee in February and was continued to today. Currently, the code allows temporary signs on construction walls and fences around vacant lots in commercial and industrial zones as part of the Bureau of Public Works graffiti removal program through the Office of Community Beautification. The program allows applicants to post temporary signs in exchange for cleaning and maintaining a specified area free of trash and graffiti. The code amendment presented to you clarifies the provisions so the rules are clear to applicants and the provisions are more easily enforced by the Department of Building and Safety. And some of the highlights of the ordinance requires that in order for someone to post a temporary sign on a construction wall, the site must have a valid permit for construction on the site with a separate permit for the temporary sign. At least a portion of the construction wall must be required for public safety by the Department of Building and Safety, that there be no operating business on the site, that construction progress must be reported to Building and Safety every 6 months, and if no progress is made, the permit for the temporary sign becomes invalid. And finally, if temporary signs must be removed if the permits for the construction or the temporary sign are no longer valid.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Mr. Linfield?
Last time these proposed amendments were heard, I raised the concern about including RAS or mixed-use zones. I want to ensure this is still being addressed and that we don't need to take any actions to amend that. Is that still part of this?
So it's not part of the ordinance that we have presented, but it can be added by your committee with no additional problems. We would adjust the categorical exemption to include the RAS zones.
Okay, I'd like to propose that we do that.
Sure. Okay.
And then the area, the amount that we clean in the area, could that be increased?
Pardon me?
The amount of graffiti of the area that we clean using the funds, is that the right amount? Can it be increased?
Perhaps Office of Community Beautification should respond to that.
Paul Roch, Director of the Office of Community Beautification, and typically when a organization applies for this and gets granted a permit, they go out 500 feet in every direction from the signs. I believe that this ordinance does allow us to increase that in increments to 750 feet and up to 1,000 feet if we find that the initial 500 feet in every direction is not adequate as far as the amount of graffiti, trash, or litter that needs to be cleaned up. So we can expand the area if we find a need to do so.
Great. It doesn't need a nexus study or anything like that. You can just do
I
it.
don't think so.
Great. Interested in increasing that, Mr. Bloomfield?
Well, I wanted to know if they could. I always like to see the area as large as possible that we're cleaning, and if you're able to do it on your own and don't need anything else from us, that's one thing. But if we're looking for ways to make this work better, and if there's a way, if you need us to increase that in some way, that's another. But it sounds like you have the authority or the ability to do it.
I think both currently and what's written in the new one allow us to expand the area if it turns out that the initial 500 feet in every direction is fairly clean, and we want to get more bang for the buck.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Price?
Thank you, first of all, for your work on this. I know this has been lots of input, lots of sources on this. Question about the kind of timelines to process these applications. Can you give us some idea of what the timing is on it? Is there a backlog now, for example? Is it easy to sort of process these as they go through? And of these, how many are revocation cases? How many are we revoking now?
So the initial process begins, one of the organizations that would like to apply for the posting of the signs comes to the Office of Community Beautification and presents the location. We then have one of our staff people go out and inspect it and make a determination as to the appropriateness of the area, whether it should be, initially the 500 feet in every direction or a larger area. And then our office then does a letter to the Department of Building Safety, just basically saying that we are now aware that this is one of the locations that's going to be put under the program. Typically, it takes us maybe 2 or 3 weeks to have somebody go out, inspect the area, get back, produce a letter, and then send it over to the Department of Building and Safety, which actually issues the permit. As far as revocations, we're not really involved in that. I think that would actually be a building and safety issue because they are the ones that actually issue the permits. And so should a permit need to be revoked for any reason, it would go through building and safety.
So if we go with the expiration method, how would the building and safety enforce it then?
So initially
how does the city monitor, an active site versus the inactive site?
Yeah, so Office of Community Beautification monitors the areas for the initial period. I believe that the permits are good for 6 months.
How do we get building and safety to join us? Is that building and safety?
Good afternoon, council members. Frank Lara, Building and Safety. So your question was relative to the application. These are typical of any building permit. So an applicant would come to our counter, submit the required documents to show what they plan to construct. In this case, it would be the signs. Although in this ordinance, there's actually 2 permits that are relative. There's a construction permit that must be in place prior to having a construction wall sign permit. So, and the time for application review of the permit is relative to exactly the complexity of the job and what's being done. So, the construction permit could take many months in an application process, where the construction wall sign, that could be probably shortened to a couple weeks.
How are advertisers currently reporting the work that they've done, or are they reporting? I guess that's part of the issue, huh? But do they provide numbers on the number of locations they have, or number of graffiti's been removed, or is there any kind of?
So the groups, the advertisers, report to the Office of Community Beautification on a monthly basis. They submit to us the number of locations, a list of the locations that they did, the amount of square footage, and the number of trash bags that were collected. On an average month, approximately 20,000 square feet of graffiti is being removed by the various agencies, and about 100 bags of litter, trash, weeds, and debris are being picked up.
Well, as my colleagues have suggested, I think we all want to see how we can improve this program, make it more effective. Any more thoughts about how we can get greater compliance and greater...
Well, I think one of the things that this revised ordinance does is it puts a little more teeth in our ability to get those reports on a regular basis. Right now, I mean, we ask them for it, but there's not really much we can do if the reports aren't being submitted. So,
and then when we get those reports, how is it being used?
Well, we're tracking the work that they're doing. It also frees up our regular graffiti contractors to not necessarily have to work in those areas and expend resources in there. Again, these are temporary locations, so maybe the signs or the work's going on for 3 to 6 months, and then the signs are taken down because the walls come down, and they'll move on to another location or something like that. So, it's like a temporary help in a specific area for a couple months, 6 months, maybe to 12 months, and then a lot of cases it moves on to somewhere else.
Well, I think it's a good start, Mr. Chairman. I support the proposal as presented and look forward to working with staff as we tighten it up.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Blumenfield?
Yes. Listening to Mr. Price, just getting an additional question on how valuable, I mean, I guess there's no specific answer, but do we get a report about how valuable the signage is in terms of, in order for us to gauge if we're getting a good bang for our buck in terms of the graffiti and the removal and everything else, to some extent we need to know how profitable that signage is. Do we get reports on how profitable those walls are, so to speak, from the advertisement?
We don't get those types of reports in OCB. I don't know if anybody else does.
Council member, we received no reports either on that.
I mean, maybe there's something there in terms of being able to judge the efficacy of the program, because if it is incredibly lucrative, then maybe we want to make the minimum as more than 500 feet. Maybe we want to make them 1,000 feet or 2,000 feet. I mean, just saying. And if it really is, these things are on the margin, we really can't push very much more than that. They're just kind of recouping the cost for, having the wall there and the development, then maybe we need to lay back a little bit. I don't know how we figure that out, but I'd like to see some sort of a study or of that, or maybe reporting requirements, if that's legally allowed, to get a sense of what those walls are worth, and then maybe that will help us get a better gauge of what we can ask for. And obviously it's going to be different in different places. There's not a single number. A construction wall, in one location may be incredibly lucrative, and that same wall dimension, not so much somewhere else.
Yeah, because we could put a cost on the value of the work being performed as far as the graffiti removal or the litter and weeds being cleaned up, and what that would cost if we were doing it with our regular contractors. But yeah, I see what you're saying, the value to the agencies putting up the signs. I don't know if we capture that at all.
That's a very good question, Mr. Go ahead, the City Attorney.
Deputy City Attorney Ken Fong. I just wanted to add that the ordinance as drafted now, it does allow increase to a maximum radius of 1,500 feet under certain circumstances.
So it allows it, but there's no way for us to gauge, except for our needs of the graffiti removal and the dirt, we can, or the litter, we gauge what the need is, but there's no sense of us in terms of valuing what that relative burden is when we ask for that to be done.
Oh, well, you're asking how much income is generated from the signage and so forth.
Right.
Well, that's a tricky issue. We're constantly dealing with that. The only way to really know is if they opened up their books.
Is that too much to ask?
Well, it's...
I'm sure some people in the audience are probably groaning at that question, but I don't know the answer. I'm sure there's some legal questions there too, in terms of how much we can ask. But I guess I'll put it back. I'll put it to you guys for a report back in terms of how how we can get to the valuation question, whether or not it's legitimate to open up the book, so to speak, on that, or maybe there's a way that we can independently survey it. Just like you have fair market value appraisers tell you, we don't necessarily have to get into somebody's proprietary business to, and to make that public. And I understand why that may be sensitive, but at the same time, there are people out in the world who judge these things, and who, just someone who can tell us the value of land or property could probably tell you, somebody in that business could look at a sign and tell you or the wall and tell you the value of that wall within a certain range. I mean, somebody knows.
Yeah, I think we can explore that.
Okay, so I'd like to make that, however inartfully I expressed it, but part of our report back.
Okay. Thank you. We'll go to public comment now, and then Barbara Broidy, Patrick Frank, Timothy Alger, and Ann D'Amato. Each person has 1 minute.
Thank you, President, Chair Huizar. Barbara Brody, Westwood South of Santa Monica Boulevard Homeowners Association. Our group supports the staff and the CPC recommendations and requests that Plum pass and adopt those recommendations to clear up the ambiguities in the language, to allow staff to administratively revoke the permits when there are businesses doing business where the walls are, and then visit ways to strengthen this act further. We spent years trying to remove some of these temporary walls, and it's very difficult, and it's a blight on our community rather than an asset. Ways you can strengthen this ordinance: 1, view windows so that they are safe and people can see through them. 2, you've got to put the posting of the permit information on the permit, on the walls, so that people know if they are permitted or not. That's very important, because oftentimes these walls are permitted with no permits. So we ask that also that language be added that says that graffiti must be removed from sidewalks and utility boxes, because those are places where we see them adjacent to the properties and they have not been cleaned up. Thank you.
My name is Patrick Frank, Coalition to Ban Billboard Blight. We feel like this legislation is going in a very good direction. Tightening up the requirements, especially regarding functioning businesses, makes a lot of sense to us. Councilmember Blumenfield was asking about whether this is lucrative. The proof of that is in how common abuses have been up to now in terms of putting temporary wall signs on functioning businesses. It sets a terrible precedent. If every functioning business decided to put up a temporary wall, imagine how that would happen. Now, I know that's unrealistic, but imagine if even a quarter of functioning businesses put up a temporary wall sign. It would radically alter our neighborhoods for the worst. So we support the current situation and the tightening of the legislation as it's being proposed. At Venice and Lincoln Boulevards, there's a fully functioning car wash that has temporary wall signs for the past 2 years. This is right behind a temporary memorial to the Japanese internment, and it's a particularly egregious example of what the current legislation is going to address. So we support it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Timothy Alger. I serve as General Counsel for General Barricade. We appreciate your careful consideration of these proposed amendments. It's become clear that this program is an excellent program and has benefited the community, and I think it's good that it be at least considered carefully and deal with objective criteria for any improvements on the program. We hope you reject proposals to limit the program to ground-up construction and vacant lots. It helps small businesses finance improvements to their property and renovations, and it seems arbitrary and unnecessary to remove those locations from the program. In the meantime, while the Council is considering the issue, we're seeing perhaps well-meaning but arbitrary and uneven enforcement of the law pursuant to policy, not pursuant to the code itself. We'd like the committee to instruct LADBS and the City Attorney's Office to refrain from enforcement pursuant to internal policy in the meantime while the matter is being considered by the Council. Thank you.
Thank you. And D'Amato?
Good afternoon, Council members. Thank you for the opportunity. My name's Ann D'Amato, and I'm here representing City Outdoor. We support the revisions to the ordinance to tighten the rules. On the issue of the construction walls, first and foremost, we support protecting the site for pedestrians as well as construction materials. And again, I want to thank you for bringing this to our attention. Thank you.
Sir, I see you stood up to speak. I don't have any of the speakers, but if you want to state your name, go ahead and speak.
Hi, Gary Schaffner from Alchemy Media.
Okay, 1 second before you start. And for next time, you could, the digital thing in the background, you could put in your name there to show up on my screen. Next time you come and speak, you could sign up in the back digital board, and it'll allow you to sign up as a speaker.
I'm sorry, I did.
Oh, you did? Okay, I'm sorry, then it didn't come up here. Okay, go right ahead. Thanks.
Hi, Gary Schaffner with Alchemy. And since the programs, I'm a participating company in the program. Since its inception, we've taken out over 1 million square feet of graffiti. I'd like to say that we are in total support of the planning department's recommendations that this should go through with not be allowed on open businesses, and we look forward to working with the city and bringing this forward. If I can say to Councilman Blumenfeld's comment, I think the best way I could explain it is, in a lot of cases, the sites that earn less money are in areas that have more graffiti. So I think there's a workable situation, but it would need to be worked on. Thank you.
Thank you. You had the same issue? Okay, go right ahead.
Thank you. Yes, I think we probably both signed up. I don't know why I didn't go through. Yeah. Quickly, Phil Recht, also representing General Barricade. Our position is the same as it was before, which is that the benefits of this program far outweigh these alleged abuses, which are really quite minor. And as a result, any remedies should be surgical, not drastic. And most drastic of the proposed remedies is to outlaw the program at these operating businesses altogether. That would eliminate many legitimate remodels, particularly for small businesses in many of your districts, and the benefits would be tossed out the window with it. There's a much easier surgical approach, which is to require two things. One, construction begin within 6 months, and that the barricade walls be legitimately required for safety or security pursuant to specific criteria in the code. And lastly, we would also recommend that the reporting obligations be strengthened so that you have the full data you need to properly evaluate the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? What I'd propose then is that we continue this item and we request some report backs. I agree with some of the questions that were raised. We need some additional information with respect to having some ample data on the extent of the graffiti abatement program and how that exactly is working. So I would suggest that we instruct Building and Safety with the assistance from City Planning to report back with more detailed options regarding construction wall requirements as they pertain to temporary signs, including options for perimeter walls around larger project sites. I also move to instruct the Department of City Planning with assistance from the Office of Community Beautification to report back on the overall efficacy of the graffiti abatement program, including past performance, and also to report back on options to further enhance our reporting requirements, and to report back on Mr. Blumenfield's request that we include RAS 3 and 4 zones, and that we report back on the possibility of a request to the industry that they provide information on the value of their postings. Was that accurate, Mr.?
Yeah, not just the evaluation of the project, that's good, but also that we look at ways that we could evaluate it. Like I could see potentially having an estimator, a fair market value kind of person, even if the industry doesn't do it, ways that we could evaluate.
Ways that we could evaluate. Well, any options that would provide us the information to evaluate the value of the postings. Yes, whether it's the industry providing the information or we do it independently on our own with some experts or something. All right, so we'll continue this item with and request those report backs. Great. Any objections? Seeing none, so ordered. Thank you. So now we will go to general public comment on the regular agenda, and then after that we will go to the special agenda. On the general public comment. I don't believe we have any public speakers, so let's move to the special agenda. And if you could call item number 1 to order, Mr. Mejia?
Councilman, can you please adjourn the regular meeting?
We have to adjourn it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's adjourn the regular meeting. Okay, no objections, so ordered. Now we will call to order the special agenda meeting.
Mr. Chair, I think you would just recess the regular meeting.
Let's, City Attorney, it's two different, CLA saying one thing, clerk another. How do you call it, City Attorney?
Are you ending the
And the
the
pro
regular
tem here
meeting?
is saying we recess.
Terry Kaufman, Macias City Attorney's Office. I think we're done, and we're not coming back to, you called public
Yeah,
comment.
so we've adjourned it.
So
yeah.
it's adjourned.
Yeah, we usually recess, but since we're not coming back to it, we'll adjourn it this time. Thank you. So we will call the special agenda item to order. That didn't have a time certain, did it? No. The special, no.
Yes,
Okay.
the special item, Councilman, is an appeal by David Shapiro. This is a haul route appeal for a property located in CD4.
Okay, so we had this item a week ago. We continued it because one of the appellants had proposed some additional information that staff wanted to review, and that brings us back now. So if you could begin, please.
Dino Kanawi Building and Safety. This application was heard on May 8th by the Board and Building and Safety Commission, and they adopted the categorical exemption with 14 specific conditions imposed on the project. With regards to the information provided by the appellant last week, City Planning issued a response, and Jason Chan can address that.
Good afternoon, Jason Chan, City Planning. The Planning Department prepared a response to the CEQA appeal points. This was transmitted to the Plum Committee through the City Clerk's office. Our response is summarized as follows. No cumulative impacts will result because such impacts must occur at the same time and place per CEQA Section 15358. The second appeal point was regarding trees on site. We found that there may be trees that were not identified. However, the City Planning Department only requires trees to be identified that are 8 inches in diameter or a protected species 4 inches in diameter as measured 4.5 feet from the ground. The third point was regarding wildlife. The site is vacant but is not found to be significant as a wildlife habitat. Maps provided by the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy are done at a community scale and are not site-specific. Further, such maps only show the potential linkages that might occur. They do not act as expert opinion or as a biological study. Finally, there are no unusual circumstances that apply to the project, and conditions of approval from the haul route are not considered deferred mitigation because no mitigation is proposed. That concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we satisfied public comment at the last meeting, but we will open it up again for this meeting. The first speaker, we have 3 speakers, Michael Manchel, Trevor Kidd, Rob Fisher. Who's the applicant on this? Okay, let's do this. And what's your name? Michael Manchel. Okay, let's call Trevor Kidd first and Rob Fisher. Are they with you? You guys are all together? Trevor's with you. You're with CD4. Okay, so let's hear both of you, and then we'll listen to CD4. Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon. Mike Manchel, property owner. I would just say that in light of the fact that the appellant hasn't added any new information, that the Planning and Land Use Management Committee has both recommended approval and defended the application and recommended denying the appeal, that I'll just rest with their decision, and thank you for your time.
Great, thank you.
I'm the project coordinator. I've looked at basically had my hands on every form that we've filled out at every step of the process, and complied with every requirement that the city's had for us to this point. And I'd just like to say thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, CD4.
Thank you. Good afternoon, council members. My name is Rob Fisher. I'm the field deputy and community planner for Council District 4. On behalf of Councilmember Rue and the senior planning deputy, Emma Howard. As you know, Councilmember Rue is strongly against granting CEQA exemptions for pipeline projects in the hillsides, as he's concerned about the impacts on the residents and the wildlife. Additionally, he shares the concerns of our residents about projects in the hillsides which are incorrectly sent to plan check without hearing and when on substandard streets, an issue which usually is only caught the attention at the start of construction. We would also note that our office strongly believes in the efficacy of the baseline mansionization and baseline hillside ordinance. We appreciate the decision of the Board of Building and Safety and Commissioners to only permit 3,200 cubic yards of grading, the absolute maximum permitted in the RE15 zone. And note that the project application for Lindacrest Drive was submitted approximately 2 weeks before the BMO and BHO went into effect on March 17th, 2017. We note if the same project were going through the application process today, the total grading allowed would be 1,929 cubic yards. However, the project at 1579 Lindacrest Drive is different from most hillside projects we oppose in the following ways. One, the application was submitted before the baseline mansionization and hillside ordinance went into effect, and the project conformed to the application regulations of that time of the application. Two, the haul route requirement led to a public hearing process and a chance for discretionary consideration, public input, and public review of the project. Three, staff planners have been able to give a point-by-point response to the appeal thanks to your continuance of this item from last week. Four, our office specifically thanks Jason Chen and Faisal Rabel for their work with the Office of the City Council. And lastly, there are many hillside developments in our district where our office opposes granting CEQA and road improvement exemptions for projects which would not pass under current code standards. However, we believe that this project is simply not at that level and has been appropriately reviewed and permitted. In light of the public process and thoroughness of staff response, I request on behalf of Councilmember Rue that you approve the haul route and deny the appeal today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. And the appellants.
Mr. Shapiro.
Mr. Shapiro is here, not here? Okay, and we made it clear that we continued this item, made it clear at what date we would hear this item. Everything was properly noticed, I assume?
Yes.
Okay. So with that, given the testimony and the documents before us and CD4's testimony, we move to deny the appeal and sustain the determination of the Board of Building and Safety. Any objections to that? Seeing none, so ordered. Thank you. Thank you very much. No public comment on the special agenda. That concludes this meeting. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.